From elevators to bathrooms to actual jail. Where's the worst place to get stuck?
Well, today on Most Basic Top 10, we're gonna be covering some of the creepiest places people have got stuck.
Starting off this list in our number 10 spot, we have the story of Nicholas White. Nicholas was working in the McGraw-Hill building in New York City on October 15th, 1999.
Well, he went downstairs to the street to have a cigarette, on a cigarette break. Well, on his way back, he took the building's express elevator since he worked on the 43rd floor.
On his way back up, the elevator suddenly stopped. He hit the alarm in the elevator, but nothing happened.
That's the worst place to get stuck on an elevator on your way up to the 43rd floor.
Like, who knows how high up you are?
Well, he sat waiting, hoping that it wouldn't take long for people to recognize or realize that the elevator ain't working and hey, I'm in here, ding!
After quite some time had passed and no one realized, he began to panic and he tried to pry the elevator doors open. But once he got them opened, he realized that there's just a concrete wall there since he took the express elevator and it didn't have any stops until the 40th floor.
I don't know what I would do. I wouldn't open it and get out and start scaling like Spider-Man up. Unless I got stuck on the first floor, then I might make that jump.
Seriously?
A 5-foot jump, I might do it. I might save myself in that situation. So Nicholas ended up being stuck for 41 hours in total with only his wallet, 3 matches, and his cigarettes. I would have for sure lit one up.
He was in total silence for most of the time because he had to turn the alarm off after it began to give him auditory hallucinations.
One of the craziest parts of this is the fact that there was surveillance footage of the whole thing.
There was a camera recording the whole thing at his place of work and no one noticed for 41 hours.
If there was a surveillance camera, you'd see me peeing for sure. I can't hold it more than 3 hours. You would have been multiple takes. You could have done fast cut edits of me peeing. Could have been a montage.
After 5 shift changes in security guards, someone finally saw Adam sleeping on the floor on the security camera.
Well, this guard thought that it was a homeless person that had snuck up.
That's how they finally realized. Adam was rescued eventually and he tried to sue, but after a 4-year legal battle, he settled for an undisclosed amount, and he's not even allowed to sell his story. That would be a great movie.
That sucks. That would have been a sick movie. All right, moving right along on this list. At number 9, we have the story of a repairman getting stuck inside of an ATM.
In July of 2017 in Corpus Christi, Texas, a man was working to fix a lock in a room behind the Bank of America cash point.
Well, the man accidentally ended up locking himself in and couldn't get out.
He realized that he also left his phone in his car, so he was unable to even call for help. But if he could just get someone's attention, he could get them to phone his boss so that he could escape.
Well, the man began sending notes through the receipt slot asking for help. And with his boss's phone number attached to it. Why not just like, I need help, 911?
Yeah.
Like, can you call my boss? No, I don't care about work right now. Boss man can fire me. I need 911. I need a fireman to come here and save me.
The jaws of life. Unfortunately, most of the people who got the notes thought that a prank was being pulled on them. Finally, one person decided to check it out just in case, and they called the number.
One person took it seriously.
Yeah.
Alright, before we move on, if you guys are liking this video, don't forget to hit the thumbs up button. It really helps us out.
In our number 8 spot, we have the story of a man getting entangled in an electricity pylon. In August of 2017 in Hutton, Lancashire, a 36-year-old man became entangled and stuck in an electricity pylon hanging 65 feet above the ground. Unbelievably lucky at the fact that the 275,000 volt line that he had found himself entangled in had been shut off due to maintenance, because if it wasn't, he would have been instantly killed. But he was still in a precarious situation of dangling 65 feet above the ground. It's super unclear as to how he ended up climbing all the way up there and how he ended up getting entangled, but he was finally safely rescued and transported to the hospital just to be sure he was unharmed.
Alright, just like that, let's move right along. At number 7, we have a roller coaster malfunction that left 20 people stuck stuck in the air. On September 5th, 2020, at an amusement park in Wuxi, East China, which is located in Jiangsu province, a roller coaster ended up malfunctioning mid-ride and left 20 people stuck for over an hour. It is said that the roller coaster stopped because some sort of foreign object, perhaps a bird, flew into the roller coaster sensor that triggered a security response, stopping the roller coaster immediately. The passengers of the roller coaster were saved and all of them made it through uninjured. The park was reopened the following day because they can't be losing money, well, except for 7 rides that have been closed until further safety inspections could be done.
In our number 6 spot today, we have a man who got himself stuck in a toilet. In 2016, a Norwegian man named Cato Larsen was trying to rescue his friend's phone when he got himself stuck. The tank of the toilet was located beneath the seat, which is how he was able to completely lower himself and find himself trapped. To make this uncomfortable situation just a little disgusting, the tank wasn't connected to a sewage system and it just emptied itself periodically, so he was stuck under there with more human waste than probably any of us would like to think of. He also says that there were many animals down there. One of them bit him. The police finally arrived and they were able to rescue him, but he still says it's the worst thing he's ever experienced. I definitely believe him.
And at our number 5 spot, we're halfway there on this list, we have a man who was forgotten about in solitary confinement. A college student named Daniel Chung was hanging out with his friends one day when the police ended up crashing his friend's house and taking everyone to jail. And it just so happens that Daniel fell on a stroke of bad luck, and that's because he was hanging out with his friend who was a drug dealer he had no idea about, and that was the same night the house got raided and he was arrested. After some further investigations, authorities realized Daniel was just an innocent bystander and they put him in a solitary confinement cell just until they were ready to release him. But Daniel had such bad luck and he was actually forgotten about. He was forgotten about in solitary confinement. Daniel actually ended up getting forgotten about for 4 whole days in a windowless cell without food, water, and on top of it all, he was still handcuffed. Is this real life right now? I can't even imagine how scared he probably was. He thought, you know, this is it. I'm going to die here. Finally, he was found and immediately taken to the hospital where he was treated for dehydration, kidney failure, cramps, and he had a perforated esophagus. Daniel was 15 pounds lighter than when he entered in the cell. I'm so glad he was found before anything worse happened to him. Maybe another day went by, he wouldn't have been able to make it to the hospital, and I hope that he was able to make a full recovery because he definitely deserves some smooth sailing for the rest of his life. Hopefully he won a major lawsuit.
Heading down to number 4, we have a poor grandmother who was trapped in her own bathroom. A 69-year-old French woman had her bathroom lock break after her, trapping her inside. The woman ended up banging on the pipes to try and get someone's attention, but her neighbors dismissed the noise, saying that they thought it was workmen carrying out some renovations. Luckily, she had tap water in order to at least stay hydrated because it was 3 weeks until she was finally found. When she was finally found, she was rescued by police after neighbors began to complain of the persistent noise. She was apparently not in a very good state when she was found, as I can imagine, but she was quickly treated at the hospital.
In our number 3 spot, we have a story that I really cannot believe. A Hungarian man named András Tamas was a German soldier who was a prisoner of war during World War II, after being captured by the Soviets in 1944. Andrés unfortunately had some sort of PTSD from being in the gulags and was unable to tell anyone who he was or why he was there. He ended up being transferred to a psychiatric hospital and just kind of, he was forgotten about. He was there so long that the staff who knew how he had ended up there from the war had all passed on to retirement or had gotten new jobs, and none of the new people ever opened up his file to get any background information. So these people taking care of him thought he was just some crazy guy who couldn't speak Russian and just uttered the gibberish, and no one ever thought to look more into who he was or how long he's been there. Or how about this, when is his release date? Why are they taking care of this man just on and on and on as years go by? Well, this went on, believe it or not, into his late 90s. He was stuck there for half a century. That's 50 years. A doctor visiting the facility finally recognized that Andrés wasn't speaking gibberish. The gibberish was actually called Hungarian. Well, this doctor finally opened up his medical file while and realized who he was. Andres was finally returned home after all those years being stuck and misunderstood.
In our number 2 spot, we have another elevator story. This time, a French woman got stuck on an elevator for 3 whole days. She was 19 years old at the time and got on the elevator in the building she lived in when it suddenly got stuck. When the girl's father didn't hear from her for a while, he got worried and called the building concierge to tell them that maybe she was stuck in the elevator. The concierge and a repairman went to check the elevator but didn't find anyone and didn't hear any alarm. The next day, the father called the police to report her missing and also to file a complaint of non-assistance to a person in danger, which is a crime in France. Finally, 3 days later, a repairman who had come to do some work heard a soft cry coming from the elevator, and she was finally found. It is unclear why she hadn't called out for help earlier, but the important thing is that she was found and rescued. And in our number 1 spot today, we have the story of Ben Carpenter.
Ben is a 21-year-old man, and one day he was strapped into his electric wheelchair by his seatbelt, crossing an intersection in Paw Paw, Michigan.
As he was crossing the street, the opposite light turned green just as he was in front of a semi-truck, and the truck began to move.
Well, Ben's wheelchair handles got stuck in the grill of the truck, and Ben was taken on a ride with the truck for several miles, going 50 miles an hour.
Thank goodness he was strapped in, and the truck was finally pulled over by some undercover police officers who just happened to be in the area.
Well, the driver had no idea that any of this was going on. Ben was rescued and he was uninjured. I have no idea how, but he was still taken to the hospital just as precautionary, just to be sure.
His chair was also pretty much undamaged, but the rubber on his wheels was basically gone.
Well, that was probably the scariest and the coolest thing for Ben, but I'm so glad he's alright. Well, there you guys have it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I was your host, Landon. Do not sing.
I'm Olivia Kozlowski, and we'll see you next time.